Our Highline Voices, 106.5 KQWZ LPFM.
Connecting Highline and our region.
History, cultural heritage, art, performances, contemporary pop culture.
We collect, preserve, and tell the stories of the Highline region and its people.
We want to embrace our differences and similarities.
We want to extend our mission outside the walls of the museum. Our Highline Voices, 106.5 KQWZ LPFM.
Hi everyone, this is Nancy from the Highline Heritage Museum and welcome back. Today, as always, we do have a beautiful, special person and I'm just so excited for her to share her story. The first time I talked to her and I met her, I was so impressed by her and then the way she was sharing her story I'm just glad to have the opportunity to finally be able to capture a little bit, just a little tiny glimpse of who she is as a person and what she does and how she's connected here in Highline. So thank you, Angel.
Yeah.
Appreciate your opportunity to tell your story and to be able to just share who you are a little bit with everyone.
Yeah.
Another reason why we do this project is because we do believe that sharing the stories goes beyond just the walls of a museum. And we want to strip down those barriers and say, no, it is, not everyone is comfortable in museums, in museum spaces. People have disabilities or transportation issues and so on. So there's many different barriers and we want to make sure that we offer in different formats how people can actually connect with each other and then be able to hear the amazing stories that we got in Highline. And so once again, thank you for joining us today. Angel, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready, Nancy.
Okay. So let us know, who are you, what's your name, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, I just want to start by saying thank you for creating this space. I think it's very important. I think stories are very important. And I agree, we all have such special parts in this world, and it's important to recognize that and make a safe space to share those stories and see how much we have in common through all our struggles and resilience building testimonies. So thank you for creating this very comfortable, safe space for me to share my story.
Wow. No, we haven't not talked that deeply since the first time we met, but I just remember this fire, and this beautiful bright fire. And so I'm not gonna take over the discussion. It's gonna be you. So tell us a little bit, who are you? And
Absolutely. So my given name is Fereshte, which translates to angel in English. My full name is Fereshte Taherazer. I was born in Iran. I was born during the Iran Revolution, right when the Ayatollahs had come into power. I was born into war. I was also born into a very, very strong family who lived on a military base in Tehran, who, above and beyond everything that I saw around me, war and obviously just devastation, we were able to just try to live as regularly as possible. So I can say that my story and what I was born into has probably absolutely paved the way for me to be doing the kind of work I'm doing today. It gives me the passion and the drive to do it with such gratitude, and I actually feel like I have a luxury to be able to have lived the life that I have lived and be in the position I am today, as an Iranian woman, as a mother, as a servant of a community, as a representative of a testimony of refugees and immigrants and their stories. And, a lot of people don't understand why people come to safe havens like the United States and end up here. And my story is one where, it was not really a choice. My father was in the military. He was a pilot. He had fought for a revolution, which he thought would benefit the Iranians, which was overcoming the Shah and, becoming less westernized, which we thought, we were becoming way too westernized, too Americanized. And Iran being a more religious, more Muslim country, they believed that we needed to kind of take it back a little bit and have a little more discipline. And with the Ayatollah taking over, it felt like maybe that there would be some not so much like I would say the extreme that it went, but some taking back of our country and our culture and our religion. But it did happen to become a little more extreme than that. And my father, being the person that he is and not being very religious, he just found that to be a little overwhelming, and it wasn't the war he wanted to fight for anymore. And he just saw a lot of devastation for the wrong causes. At a very young age, I think, 6 years old. I remember living on the base and going to first grade at least. Um, I remember my father, who, by the way, at that time was like a hero. Like, he was well known on the base. He was like a gymnast, a karate and judo like champion, and just this charming guy and very well liked, And I was a daughter of out of a family of four. I was the only daughter. I had three brothers. So was my mom. I have two younger brothers at that time and an older brother. So my father one day came to me in the middle of war and said, Fereshte, let's go on a camping trip. Oh gosh, I was so excited. My dad wants to take me on a camping trip. Even though there's war, I'm still a little girl who's just enchanted by her father and would love to spend time with her father. And yeah, so he told my brother and I we're gonna pack a small light bag and we're gonna go camping. And I was so excited. And it was just gonna be me, my dad, and my oldest brother, who at this time I was 6, and I think he was about 5 years older than me, at 11. And it would just be us three and my mom and my two little brothers who were just too little. I think my youngest brother at the time was 1.5, and the one a little bit older than him was about 3. Couldn't really come, and that was okay with me. I was just so excited to go, and we packed a very light bag, and we set off on a camping trip for what I thought. And we went to pick up another family in a town called Esfahan, which is a little more modern than what I'm used to living in Tehran. And then I remember actually the last time I saw my mom and my two little brothers, we had went to my aunt's house in Karaj before we went to meet up with this family. And we got on this yellow bus to go to Esfahan. And I remember running to the back of the bus and waving goodbye to my mom and my two little brothers and my aunt and my uncle, and not knowing the significance of that moment, right? So we ended up going and picking up this family, and we spent a couple nights there. I didn't really question much. And then one night we went in a vehicle and ended up in the Kurdish border. Kurdistan is a country right in the middle of Iran, Iraq. And I remember I knew, having lived on a military base, I was really used to following orders very well, because, there'd be times where there would be an attack, and we would have to evacuate these apartment buildings we lived in, and go outside, and we'd lay a rug outside and all lay on the ground to dodge the missiles that were coming, and then just looking up at the sky. So it was kind of what I was born into. And so I took orders. And I remember that night my father very seriously saying, we need to be really quiet. We're crossing the border. And it was nighttime. And I remember just remaining very quiet for hours until daylight came. And I guess it was safe for us to keep moving, and ended up at this village where we met these men and these mules and these soldiers who were very intimidating. They actually had these big guns across their chest, and they had mules and horses with them. And my dad just started making jokes and approaching them. And I remember they were getting along. So I was like, oh, they must be friends, and it was safe. And so with that, we started on our journey, and it ended up being a very long journey. I think we lived village to village in mountains and in tents in the midst of war for a good 6 months. And sometimes we would leave one village and get to the next and find out that the last village had been bombed.
Oh
And
my God.
yeah, so along the way, I figured we weren't going camping at some point, and we were actually escaping. I think the goal was to get to Turkey. We ended up in a smaller, more modern village. We actually did end up getting caught by the Iraqi soldiers in this village, and ended up in prison for a year and a half, prisoners of war.
Wow.
And I tell all this because the other day, Nancy, oh gosh, it just this just you have no idea the divine intervention I feel has come on my life. A couple days ago on Saturday, in my role as the community outreach strategist for the City of SeaTac, I get to partner up with community-based organizations. And this year I was tasked to, kind of go outside the parameters of celebrating the regular American holidays and really focusing on putting events around those. And being that we're in SeaTac, one of the most diverse cities, 39.8% of our population being immigrants and refugees, to find an event to help them gather and come together and celebrate. And I was able to work with International Rescue Committee and King County Library Services. And here's the kicker. So International Rescue Committee, IRC, when I was a prisoner of war in Iraq for about a year and a half, they were the ones who came into that space. Yeah, they were the ones who came into that space and negotiated
Wow.
over a long time to get many families out. And my family was one of them. And so, yeah, I can't tell you.
Well, that's how we met, actually. You came to one of those events, International Rescue Me, here at the museum.
Yes.
That's how we
Yes.
met, because we didn't know anything, Tayo. Because we've been working with them every year now, and you came to one of those, and I love them dearly.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you feel, I can sense you.
Mhm.
You feel touched by the connections and the alignments that you are going through, and in connecting to them and to your story. I remember when we had the opportunity to chat, you were sharing very strong stories like what you're doing right now. And what I mean strong stories is that you're showing the vulnerability part of us when it comes to, this is a time where you need to push forward and have that resilience. This is the time to learn. This is the time to be grateful. This is the time to be aware of how fragile things are, but then how beautiful things are too.
Yeah.
Because you see the other side. I mean, it's almost like you cannot enjoy a good meal if you have no experienced the hunger in your tummy, like
Yes.
you have to enjoy the beautiful sunshine because you've been in the rain for too long. And so there's one of those moments where I feel that because of situations allows you to live and feel deeper than if it was all granted to you, and if it was all given, if taken for granted in many different levels. One thing with me, my dear, I do talk a lot, and I need to shush my little. No, seriously, I can keep going. So you are a beautiful, strong woman that emanates this beautiful energy and light. You should just share a little bit of a quick introduction of where you begins and the awareness of what was your upbringing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us more about who you are today, and then connecting it with those experiences too.
Yeah, I think I gotta go back again a little bit. I have to tell you, this father of mine, the one that carried me through these mountains, and even in the midst of war, took me to waterfalls, and even in the midst of the bombings, would carry me on his back and look up at the sky and tell me about the universe, and never looked anxious, never looked like we were in trouble, always very charismatic, humor, kept everybody's energy up and laughing through all of this. And
Wow.
so to have a father like that in early childhood and through such a devastating situation that he made so beautiful, right?
Wow.
To have an example like that, I think has led me to in coming to America even. I came to America and was very poor. The first place we lived was downtown Seattle in this apartment building. I'm trying to be Cambridge, where they housed a lot of refugees and immigrants, and it was like this studio with a Murphy bed. And I remember just struggling a lot. We were very poor, and my parents. Eventually, my parents, by the way, my mom didn't know we had gone camping. So 5 years later, so that's a whole nother story.
No,
Yeah, but they ended up reuniting in the United States, and my parents, had a really hard time. They had to access resources and, rely on the DSHS and food stamps and public housing. And I was surrounded by immigrants and things like that in early childhood that had a lot of barriers, language barriers, survival mechanisms just to stay, afloat. And a lot of them, tried to stay under the radar and just do the best to fit in to this new country. And I saw a lot of that. And I also, saw how good examples and mentors and programs really give us insight into a world we could never imagine. I never could imagine going camping or having access to certain food or fine dining or being able to go to on a field trip to a museum or somewhere amazing. And so I tell you all that because today because again, to have been able to get out of that situation and to have had the privilege to be able to make it through all that. And, a lot of times, we have to honor the people who go through suffering and go through devastation and don't really make it out, there's a lot of ancestral things and generational things that are passed down, and not all of us get to have this story of and end up in a space where I find myself in my home being able to sit there and heal and listen to podcasts and go for walks and have everything I need right there, right? And so with all that said, being able to now, be in the position that I'm in, being able to have the education and the story to be able to be the community outreach strategist for the City of SeaTac and the language access coordinator to give access to people who English is their second language, and to be able to make partnership with all these organizations who serve our beautiful communities. And, I always find my job to be like my favorite thing. It's
Good,
crazy.
good, good.
Yeah.
No, it's good. It's part of you. I own it, and I think I shared that in this place many times. The lines between personal and professional for me is blurred. It's not. Why? Because I bring myself into the place. I bring myself into my work, and I do believe in the values, and I believe in the convictions as to why. What is the purpose? What's the meaning of the work that we do? And so I can see that you extend who you are through your work. And so that is amazing, beautiful. You haven't been that long in that position, so this is a new one, and you're the only one, right? And that yeah, I remember that now from the last conversation. You said that was okay. This just is shaping this and launching this new way of addressing community.
Yeah. I think a lot of hard things came out of COVID. A lot of good things also came out of COVID, and one of them is for us to really be aware of the inequalities in our society. It was kind of like right in front of us, and we were all at home watching it, front seat. And so out of that, there was some value put into really getting out there and serving the community in a different way, and understanding our underserved populations who don't have a voice. I always tell people it's not like, I'm going to go to City Hall and just share my opinion, especially if I'm an immigrant or refugee. And, like I said, we were told, stay under the radar, don't bring attention to yourself. So I think, and that's because there was no education or outreach to make these spaces and these government spaces seem like a place where there's programs and resources and all these things that are of value to the community. So out of that came some great funding. ARPA funding was one of them, and so I kind of became a child of ARPA, community outreach strategist. For the very first time, the City of SeaTac was able to hire on a community outreach strategist because of, this grant. And also, a lot of the cities are now required to be compliant and do the language access work to make things accessible to our LEP communities. And then so with that, my position was made. And yes, it's the first time City of SeaTac has had this position, and I've been doing it. Oh, yesterday was my 2 year at the City of SeaTac. Yay!
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so I've been doing it for 2 years, and I work with a lot of the different cities in South King County. We consider ourselves one big family, doing this work. And, for them too, it's very new for a lot of people to start doing, like I said, COVID brought a lot of insight to the inequalities. So the DEI work that's required, making sure we go out there and not just have the loud voices who feel comfortable coming and sharing, I would say, but every voice, So my goal is always to get out there, go into community to where the people are. I don't wait for them to come to me, right? I go to them.
No, they won't come to you. You have to be out there. Why? Because many different factors, and you understand those factors. Me as an immigrant also, I understand that, it's the last place I want to go. If I place myself and, at 17, I'm afraid of everything. The last thing I want is go to a city hall. The last thing I want is to approach the city. And so those are places that I know I'm not welcome. I'm not, there are no tools for me. They are not the help that I need. So why would I be there? And so I think that little by little it requires time to cultivate that message that yes, you do have that permission. Yes, this is a place that you can come to, but it will take time and a lot of campaigning, a lot of marketing and like, hey, it is okay. Why? Because organically there's been a lot of history on. Number one, this region, historically speaking, is not been that diverse. This is a first generation. And so it's a lot of changes are taking place right now. If you look about, this area started to be around here around 1870s. And it was a lot of immigration, European immigration. And we do have very specific groups, but this is truly the first generation where we find the massive numbers of diverse communities and the demographics data that we are seeing today. And so I'm just so happy that they found the right person with the right heart, with the right strength and the right understanding of what it is and understanding the community, knowing that what the barriers are. Not all of it, but at least having some type of consciousness of what those barriers communities that have been no struggle, they don't see them.
Yeah.
They just because they have not been exposed to it, they don't see the different layers that comes with suffering. Maybe the word is too strong, suffering, but facing struggles. And so now there is a component in view that is also beyond you just being an immigrant that I love. It's about you being a woman. And a woman, and now as a mom too. And what does that mean? How does that translate? And how you work in the community also translate to yourself, and to your family, and how you can empower other women, and how you can empower your family and those values. And so keep it coming, keep it coming.
Yeah. I think right prior to working at the city, I was for about 3 years, I was at the Refugee Women's Alliance. And that work impacted me so much and taught me so much. And I was able to do the 2020 census work there at REWA, and really get out there and try to get the count up and understand what those communities are facing and the fears around why people don't want to take the census. And mind you, this was in the midst of COVID, and seeing how, this is an empowering tool, but it doesn't feel like that, right?
Yeah.
And then seeing just like the universal, like for me, it was interesting because me and my kids had, there was a situation that I was dealing with at that time. It was a hardship. I did go through a hard divorce, and I did become a single mom. And it was like on top of it now, I had to, really reestablish who I was. And I think one of the things that I lost in all of that was my identity of who I was, and having this family to support now and having to navigate not just a divorce, but a hard divorce, and learning how to create tools around how to, coming from the family that I have and being in survival mode for so long, we didn't have time for healing. And, my biggest motto became during that time, I'm leaving this person because I have a different belief system. I want to create a different reality for my kids. And if I do this, it has to be a better reality than the one I just left. And, it was a very comfortable reality, I will say. It wasn't one where, I had a good lifestyle. I had everything I needed, and I kind of sacrificed all of it because I lost who I was in this relationship. So, that was a time where I had for many years been working in IT. I was in marketing. Prior to doing any of this work, I was all about getting to the American dream, like I had gone through so much, I consider like a time of famine and not having that. My number one goal was I'm going to graduate college and I'm going to get everything the American dream has to give me. And so that meant, I wanted to move out and have my own place and, got my Lexus, my first car, even though it was used, and, all the things that you think that's what life is about. This is where you get happiness, right? So yeah, I ended up working in corporate America for many years, and it was all about like how do I make good money and how do I got married, and I had this very nice lifestyle. I got to do all the things, and I thought that was what true happiness is achieving all of these things. And along the way, I found that again, I lost who I was. These beautiful rooted stories of being an immigrant and being born in Iran and having a certain set of values and resilience. And with that, I did have to go through a hard time again. But like I said, I ended up realizing that I wasn't doing the work that I wanted to. And happiness is not really derived by financial things. You get those things, and I would say, the first month, oh, that car is great, you have your nice car and you're driving around. Ah, you have the nice house, big house, you have the nice things, and you realize very quickly that ends. That's very, that's just a feeding your ego a little bit, right? And you start questioning around you. So you start wondering, where do I derive real, I would say, joy, not happiness, that real substance. And so with that, it was hard, but, now I can say that having gone through that situation and realizing that maybe I needed to get out of the IT world and come into this beautiful work that I did with immigrants and refugees and getting the count up, and then going home and, having the strength that came out of not only going through a very hard situation, but going through a hard situation, doing the work, doing the healing, looking deep in myself and saying, why am I so unhappy? I overcame so much, in this lifetime, and realizing that it's because, I really needed to get back to the purpose. My purpose wasn't to just feed off the capitalism and the American dream, but to give back. So living that example and that piece, you can't help but to show up. Everywhere. People are like, you went through so much. Why do you look happy?
Because of that too, you got two options: go downhill or go up. There's only two options once you go to drink. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's a sense of like you say, what's happiness? I don't believe the term happiness. To me, it's attached to this Walt Disney concept, princess format and everything, and then and touches a little bit of what you express. But to me, it's about collecting joy. It's about collecting memories. Once you are right in the moment where you're dying, what are you taking with you? That's the only thing you're taking is, do you fulfill your heart and soul with things that truly matter to you? Do you feel the sense of meaning instead of just mechanically being numb and just consuming things? And I'm just glad that you're able to recognize that and you're able to see that that things comes and goes, memories, heart, emotions,
Yeah.
things that truly have meaning there to stay with you. And those are the ones that feeds our soul.
Yeah.
Because it can money and all this stuff can feed up tummies and can feed our egos, like you said, but it doesn't feed our soul. Doesn't touch that part of us that have very specific needs. And that if you're trying to distract yourself with the superficial needs, it's just you neglecting that part of you. And so what I sense with you in the first time that I met is the sense of resilience and strength. And yes, a smile. Well, you pay a high price for that smile. You know what it is not to be smiling, and I think that also comes from a sense of gratitude and then humbleness, knowing that hey, things is not always nice and flashy and always good, and it comes from places too that there are struggles.
Yeah.
The how you see yourself, I know that we're always going to be evolving. I know that we're always going to be changing. The person that we are today is not going to be the same one as yesterday or the one tomorrow. Different experiences, different ideas, different environment factors that will determine who we become. But I just see you as a force of nature, cultivating values of unity and helping and finding meaning to things. I I know it takes time to build trust in the community.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's not something, hey, I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
I'm waving my white flag and I'm a
Yeah.
good person here and I'm not gonna attack you. People are just gonna be scratching their heads. Okay, fine, but it's not gonna be that easy to gain that trust, and it takes time to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I will say one thing that I was very lucky to have is right away when I started at the city, my manager uh, right away told me, we know that we've caused harm in this community. And so I want you to, build real relationships. I want you to go out there and understand what the needs are. And that was the only way I was willing to do this work, right?
Yeah.
I was not willing to do anything that meant checking boxes.
Yeah, good. Sorry.
Yes, I was not willing to do anything transactional. That's not what I was willing to represent. I'm happy you were able to hire your very first community outreach strategist, but this is who you hired, and I think they knew that, and I appreciate that because for the first almost year, I just went out there and I met with all the people doing this amazing work in our communities. I eventually got to meet with you as well and went out there and met, organizations in our community like the King County Library Services, the YMCA Matt Griffin, working with the Highline School District, working with amazing CBOs. I mean, we're so rich in resources. It's beautiful. Food Innovation Network. We have that beautiful Spice Bridge space. We have, so many different organizations, the REWAS, Jewish Family Centers, Lutheran Community Services. We are just filled with all these wonderful resources, but it's really understanding how we can partner up and do the right outreach and make things accessible to a community that is not even used to this kind of outreach or access or education or this welcoming mat or not doing things in a transactional way. And I think in a time where we need it more than ever, So when I go out there, and normally I try to do about, last year I did close to 60 outreach things where I go out, and most of them, because we live in SeaTac and we have a magnificent special events coordinator who puts together, I would say, over 30 events a year out here in our community in SeaTac. I'm able to go out to all those events, and I normally do it just old school. I table it, I bring all the resources, I bring all the programs, I share out, and I have real conversations, and I take those back. And I work, actually, my team is the city manager's office. So I'm right there, right there next to the city manager, hand in hand. And, I sit in those rooms. And one thing I know that my mentor from Riwa. Her name is Manaz Eshatu. She was the executive director and still is. Hopefully, she will get a chance to retire soon. She's been doing such great work for so long, but yeah, she deserves to relax a little bit. But she was my mentor, and she said, Angel, when you go up there, don't quiet your voice. You might be in a room, and she goes, she trusted me to go up there and be in those spaces. And sometimes, being the only only person of color on my team, and just sitting there very comfortably and not being afraid to speak and having that psychological safety has been key.
That's an interesting term because I've been in many times alone, woman,
Mm,
age,
mm,
immigrant,
mm,
all of it, that
mhm.
I'm alone. Psychologically,
Yeah.
safety, that's what you call it.
Yeah.
What is that? Because I know I've been there,
Mhm,
but so how do you define that? What is it for, especially for our audience that
Yeah.
might not understand what that means?
Yeah, I think it just means being in an environment where you feel empowered to tell your truth. I think it's in an environment where you don't have to be an imposter of who you are. I think it's an environment where the people around you value what you have to say and your perspective, and they don't shame you. They don't pull you later and maybe talk behind your back or come down on you for making certain choices or use microaggression towards you, meaning in a way where I heard you in that meeting, but I don't stand by what you're saying, but I'm not going to tell you in front of you. And I'm in a place of power where I can probably do something to harm you in a very discreet way. I can make your life a little bit harder. I can micromanage you a little bit more. Those are all signs of lack of psychological safety, and people feel them.
Oh, absolutely. Everything that you listed, I've been exposed to that in many different ways, in many different. And so from when you talk about psychologically safety, it means that you do have some type of support that fights back that. In my case, I have not found that yet, only within myself. That I know that I still need to be in that room. I still need to be in that place. I still need to be in those positions in order for me to not sure that there's someone representing something.
Yeah.
But I don't feel that psychologically safety.
Yeah.
There are many times where I feel very vulnerable in those situations and I still had to push forward and I don't have it. I don't, and I'm not saying everyone, but I've been exposed throughout the years in situations where I don't have that.
Yeah.
But reminds me again as to why am I here? I mean, what's the point of this? And then finding the elements, okay, this is the reason why I'm here. This is the reason why I'm that. We have around 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And so I wanna make sure that you continue to share your story. So as a woman, so you talk about the boys as an immigrant. As a woman, have you feel that pushback?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, in my position, I don't just get to work with people who are all about immigrants and refugees and be in those spaces. I work with all our residents, and a lot of them, unfortunately, they haven't lived the stories or been given the education, or, I remember even myself, I went through the American school system since I was in fourth grade, right? And so I read the same history books as everybody, his story. And I remember going to community college. I went to Shoreline Community College, and I went into this sociology class where I got to learn like the true history of America. And it was a book by, I think, Takaki was the author. And I remember reading that book in complete shock because coming to this country and believing it was the land of freedom and opportunity, and I could have anything I want. And, reading the books in the way they were written and presented to me, I maybe not having the education, I didn't know what the actual stories of our immigrants and refugees were. And so I remember reading that book and, hearing about, how America was really built at the hands of immigrants, and all over the state, all over the country. Our railroads, just our foundations, our amazing foundations were built on the back of immigrants who were not always treated very well, actually very poorly. I remember something that hit me was even early on in the immigration stories, even the Irish were considered, a minority, and I heard they used to cut their heads off and hang them in front of doors as a fear factor for other Irish. And so knowing those stories and the prices that were paid, oh gosh, the prices that were paid.
Yeah.
I understand the prices that were paid, but I also understand that depending on what family you were raised in and what books you read and who you surrounded yourself with and which part of America you live in, and you're just going to be your implicit bias is built in over years and years of your parents, you respect them, you love them, you expect them to teach you the right thing. Your church, you expect them to your place of worship to teach you the right thing. Your education system, these systems, you're just basically a totality of all these things, and unless you go out of your comfort zone and really learn the true stories, sit down and have real true conversations and open your door and listen to other people's stories without any implicit biases, which is very hard for us. So I understand that there's out there, being a woman, immigrant woman, I have to, in every space, be a lot more organized, be a lot more professional, be a lot more prepared, because I'm part of these generational stories who gave me again the luxury to be in this position, and I have to really carry all those stories with me and now be in this position where I'm in awe that I'm able to be in a position like this. And it's very short timeline, guys. This is very new. These positions are very new, so we're on this hill, and at least we're on the hill, I say, but it's definitely uphill, and it's a lot of work we have to do. A lot of I would say, if the best way to access some of the maybe the wrong storylines you might be carrying with you is to really go deep and read a book. Listen to scholars that talk about implicit biases. I mean, I was blown away the first time I went through an implicit bias training, and I learned how many implicit biases I even have as a person.
We all do.
Yeah.
Every single day.
Yeah.
All of us do. And in many different formats, in
Mhm.
person and in interactions in general, and
Mhm.
how we perceive it, how we interpret things,
Mhm.
even if we are not actually talking to someone.
Yeah.
But no, we do those things every single day. And it's a human factor.
Yeah.
It is a very human factor. And I had the opportunity to present about the history of prejudice and what
Yeah.
that means. And then also trying to understand more about microaggressions and what they are, and micro and microaggressions, because they're different things and how actually present themselves on an everyday basis. And so those elements are very powerful, and we feel them, but we don't understand what is that. And sometimes I feel that the lack of education is either numbs you, and you're protected by your own cloud of everything is okay, or you in pain knowing that, wait a second, that was not being a polite thing, that person was actually microaggression. And so it is very interesting to really to educate yourself and start paying attention, and it hurts you because now you can recognize it, versus the ones that, oh, you're kind of distracted, you're not really paying too much attention, you don't even recognize what you feel, something is happening, but it's not processed properly. And it hurts. It hurts when you realize, oh no, this is what's been happening. But anyway, going back to you, my dear, because I only got a few more minutes. Any last thing would you like to share out there, either in a community format or to your kids? Not necessarily to them, but like values that you want to pass on.
Yeah. I think again, I want to say that right now I do feel a lot of psychological safety because I do have the right counsel in place. Many of our council members in the city are out there doing the kind of work that I'm doing, working in the school districts, working for King County, or have worked previously with DSHS. And right now I have the right city manager. But with politics, we know everything could change. And, I might not be in a safe place. And that's the kind of world we live in, with election coming up, things could change. Everything could change. And I think one thing that I've learned throughout my life is, again, it goes back to my dad, and it goes back to regardless of every barrier. I mean, I can't imagine waking up one day and going, I'm going to take my daughter and my son and I'm going to go to Turkey and I'm going to get them to safety and eventually get my wife and my two smaller children to safety. And to have that kind of example in my life that could see that vision of hopefulness, of resilience, of just and doing it in such a way that we're talking about bombs coming down. We're talking about people who literally wanted to kill you and were against you and didn't want to stand up for what you stand up with, and they're completely against you. But no matter what, he every day he faced the day with a good attitude,
That's
with
incredible.
strength, with courage, and that's the thing with me, and during COVID, I fail a lot, by the way. I fail
We're
all
humans.
the time. I had to do a lot of therapy, by the way. I did, because, I had to get this awareness of my triggers and the things I've been through and how they show up and the PTSD of things and all the things. By no means, I have a lot of flaws. But one thing that I know that is, you have to stand up for what's right, and you have to try to do it with, compassion and love, and show up for people, and get out of your isolation, and really believe in humanity and believe in your vision. And my dad says sometimes to me, like, he says, I saw myself in America. The man embedded in his head that he was going to make it here, and now he's here, right? You really have to keep that hope alive and keep that mindset. And I know there's going to be a lot of barriers that are going to come along the way. I've faced many of them, many, and I've had many dark days. But you just have to try to remember that there is a community out there. And regardless of how much it looks like there's, sometimes, we tend to get into these echo chambers, these spaces where we believe, this one reality because that's all we're looking at. Sometimes it happens in social media and the people we surround ourselves. There's a lot out there. I would say just get out there and look at different perspectives, and be hopeful. If there's a need for healing, I'm the biggest advocate. I needed a lot of healing, and get the right tools, get the right books, listen to the right podcasts, reach out to the right communities. Don't isolate. Get out there, be part of your community, make connections, even if it's going in a coffee shop, say hi. Getting to come in here and be with you, Nancy, like, you opened the door for me and you said, hey, Angel, come visit. Sure, yes, I'm there. Angel, come to, our fundraiser. Absolutely. So,
I know
Ray,
you came
yeah,
too.
absolutely.
Thank
You have to get out there, and because I a lot of times I used to just want to isolate myself as well and believe the world is a cynical, not great place. But there's a lot of beauty. Yeah, and just the resilience will be built. And it's all about your attitude. And I know it sounds so cliche, and I don't like saying any of this stuff, but honestly, just open yourself up, and try to like I said, educate yourself in ways maybe like are outside of your realm of reality, and come to Highline Heritage Museum and look at the beautiful history of our spaces and so many different stories, right?
Even if it's not location, but thank you, by the way,
Yeah.
about the museum. But even if it's not a location, as a person, and like you said, it's just thank you for the opportunity to share that. Yes, let's make those connections. Let's get out of our bubbles.
Yeah.
Let's get out of our own comfort zones, and then realize that there's more out there than what we see. And then we think that we see all of it, but it's reality. We're just a tiny little grain in the universe. A tiny
Yeah.
little thing. And there is so much out there. And so thank you so much for vocalizing, for sharing, and for giving us a little glimpse of who you are as a
Yeah.
human being.
Yeah.
And remember, she works for the City of SeaTac. You can tell she's an amazing human being. And I'm just excited for the work that she's already doing.
Thank you.
And so thank you for the opportunity to do this work with you right at this moment. So
I appreciate you. I appreciate, yeah, you made it very easy. And thank you for the work that you do. I just look up to you, and I'm very honored to be around you and in your presence. And you just make magic happen. And sometimes I don't know how you do it, and I know it's not easy. But yeah, yeah, but thank you. Thank you for fighting for our community. Thank you for fighting for what's right. And thank you for making these safe spaces. And thank you for allowing us to share our stories.
I don't know what to say now, but thank you. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you, and I hope that you process some of the messages that you're sharing. As you can tell, they're just amazing. So thank you, everyone. Bye.
Our Highline Voices, 106.5 KQWZ LP FM. We envision ourselves sitting at a round table where no one is the leader and stories are heard respectfully, regardless of gender, age, sexual orientation, disabilities, or ethnicity. Our mission is we collect, preserve, and tell the stories of the Highline region and its people. We want to extend our mission outside the walls of the museum. Our Highline Voices represents us all, honoring our past, celebrating our present, and uniting to cultivate our future. This project allows us to reach out to demographics who might be unable to visit the museum. People with disabilities, low-income families, people who don't trust museums, and more. In partnership, we are launching a locally programmed new radio station at the museum, featuring recorded and live Highline's heritage, history, culture, arts, and more. Are you interested in sharing your story? Email director@highlinemuseum.org.